Next on Currents News, an exclusive look into the Diocese of Brooklyn's classrooms. They're getting scrubbed and sanitized.
These deep cleans even use foggers to reach the unreachable places. I'm Emily Drooby, and I'll give you an exclusive look at the process.
A group of kids are putting their faith into action by cleaning up their community, and they're getting support from some big names. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
Big news from City Hall. The Big Apple is setting a new COVID record. The spotlight shines tonight on Kamala Harris as she steps into the history books. Plus, what's it mean to vote pro-life? We ask a top archbishop.
Don't vote party over moral issues.
The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. It's a three-step process: cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, with just one goal: keeping schools safe. Currents News' Emily Drooby has an exclusive look into purifying procedures underway in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
From doorknobs to desks, this professional cleaning team has an important goal:
to clean and sanitize every single part of the building, from the cafeteria to the students' classrooms to the main offices to the maintenance.
Performing a deep clean at SALVE REGINA Catholic Academy in East New York, Brooklyn, scrubbing by hand and using this fogger to hit the unreachable spots. This sanitizing is happening at all schools across the Diocese of Brooklyn. The cost is high, over $130,000. The bills are being paid by the superintendent's office. The work ensures clean schools will be ready to welcome kids back to class. Each school is tailoring operations to their unique needs. At SALVE REGINA, that includes buying over $1,000 of equipment, including a backpack fogger.
Every evening, we will be able to reinforce the work that was done by this professional cleaning company. My utmost concern is the safety of the students, is the safety of our staff and the teachers.
Like SALVE REGINA, most schools are opening for in-class teaching. That's one of three plans that get underway in September. Plan A, 100% in-person instruction. Plan B, a hybrid of in-person and at-home learning. And Plan C, 100% distance learning.
Isolation rooms is the last door on this side.
Our Lady of Trust Catholic Academy in Canarsie is preparing for full-time classroom teaching.
We have a custodian on staff during the day. He will clean the bathrooms, wipe them down 3 times a day. 3 times a day they'll wipe down the hand railings.
Principal MURIEL Wilkinson says parents will soon get a tour of the school's safety measures over Zoom. She also points out teachers will be wearing clear masks so kids can see their faces.
Especially for like phonics and things like that, you know, they can see. And they can also see that they're smiling underneath. They're not saying, look, I'm smiling under this mask. They can actually see that.
St. Joseph the Worker Catholic Academy's deep cleaning has the added challenge of reaching high ceilings. The WINDSOR TERRACE school is also taking steps to meet the needs of their youngest students.
In pre-K, kindergarten, they use a lot of Play-Doh. Play-Doh is really important for fine motor skills. It's really important for dexterity. We can't sanitize Play-Doh. And so alternatively, we bought lots of Play-Doh, and everyone will get their own Play-Doh in Ziploc bags.
The student population at the academy is growing this year, and with the need to use more classrooms so all kids keep a safe distance, 7 new faculty are coming on board. Schools will be back in session with these new innovative methods in place starting September 9th. All are ready to switch to plans B or C if COVID cases arise. In Windsor Terrace, Brooklyn, Emily Drooby, Currents News.
Parents can learn the latest about reopening plans by going to the website of their kids' school. The latest on COVID infections in the Big Apple is good news. The city is seeing the lowest percentage of positive tests since the start of the pandemic.
And this is the lowest infection rate in New York City since the beginning of the coronavirus crisis. Today's number, 0.24%. This is extraordinary.
At the peak in late March, more than 71% of New Yorkers were testing positive for the virus. At the same time, the city's test and trace team is tracking a small outbreak in Borough Park. The central Brooklyn neighborhood has seen 16 new cases in the past week. Catholic school kids in Queens are taking it to the streets. They're forming a crew that cares, pitching in to clean up as a pandemic-plagued city needs all the help it can get. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from Middle Village.
If you litter, you're not taking good care of your community. But these kids are. The Kids Care Crew, a new organization, held its inaugural community service event Wednesday. The mission: clean up Metropolitan Avenue.
These streets shouldn't look like this. They should look clean, they should look good, nobody should really litter. So I think it would be really nice if we just cleaned up the streets and it would be better than it is right now.
Before the kids, who were students at St. Margaret Catholic Academy in Middle Village, began the cleanup, they were visited by two people who know all about serving in the community.
KCC stands for what?
Kids Care Crew.
Queens Councilman Bob Holden and Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams stopped by to thank the kids and give them some encouragement.
This is what community is about. Parents who are telling their children every day, how do we do acts of kindness? How do we look at the budget cuts and not say woe is me, but why not me? Why don't I clean up on my block?
An Arizona bottle. This is insane.
During the pandemic, trash has been piling up on the streets of New York City. In June, the city cut $106 million from the sanitation department budget, reducing pickup for public garbage cans by 60%.
We went through the 70s and 80s. I lived through that. Trash all over the cities. You couldn't go on a subway without graffiti everywhere. You couldn't read a subway map because the graffiti was covering it. We're getting back to that, and that's unfortunate. So our young people now are stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to help out.
The Kids Care Crew was there to pick up the slack and everything they could grab.
The people who put it down don't really ever pick it up. They just leave it there, and other people sometimes trip, and then we want to clean it up so people don't trip and get hurt.
Okay, we're going to go this way.
Kids Care Crew was formed by a group of moms who say they want to lead by example and make community service a big part of their children's lives and faith.
To me, faith is helping people even when it's not convenient, because we know that the coronavirus is here and we know that it's easier to stay home and watch things on TV, but we can very safely mask up, glove up, and go out and show our kids that even in hard times, it's still important to give back and do the right thing. And the right thing, when you have faith, is to lead by example.
The Kids Care Crew's next event will be a backpack donation to students from PS 157 in Harlem on September 2nd.
Kids Care Crew!
In Middle Village, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Notre Dame University is shutting down its classrooms, at least for now, after an alarming increase in COVID cases on the South Bend, Indiana campus.
The spike in cases is very serious, and we must take serious steps to address it.
University President Father John Jenkins is suspending in-person instruction until at least September 2nd. Notre Dame has recorded 147 COVID infections in a span of less than 2 weeks, including 80 on Monday alone. The school is saying most students are following coronavirus safety rules, but some aren't on board. Father Jenkins is warning that if the outbreak is not brought under control, students will be sent home. Notre Dame is one of the few Catholic universities in the country to have already started classes. Kamala Harris is going to make history in a few hours. She's the first woman of color to be a vice presidential nominee, and she's accepting that nomination tonight at the Democratic National Convention. Nadia Romero has the story.
It's set to be a historic night 3 of the Democratic National Convention. Senator Kamala Harris will give her speech as the first woman of color to be a vice presidential nominee.
The Biden-Harris ticket is about an agenda that is about representing who America really is.
Wednesday is jam-packed with appearances by heavy hitters and fellow politicians who know what it's like to be the first, including Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State and the first woman to be a major party nominee for president in 2016.
I want to add my voice to the many who have endorsed you to be our president.
And of course, former President Barack Obama, the country's first black president, who chose Joe Biden as his own vice president 12 years ago.
Joe Biden won't just make a good vice president, he will make a great vice president.
Tonight, he'll make the case that his former running mate and Harris are the ones to move America forward.
This is going to be an administration, the Biden-Harris administration, that is focused on the future of our country, motivated by what can be, unburdened by what has been.
In Washington, I'm Nadia Romero.
Joe Biden officially won the Democratic nomination last night, securing the almost 2,000 delegates needed. After the votes were recorded virtually, he appeared on camera to acknowledge what the delegates had done.
Well, thank you very, very much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all. It means the world to me and my family, and I'll see you on Thursday.
That's when Biden will deliver his acceptance speech, the grand finale to the Democratic National Convention. President Trump was in Yuma, Arizona, while the Democrats were giving their stamp of approval to the Biden-Harris ticket. He focused on a key difference between the parties, immigration policy, with Trump boasting about the wall on the border with Mexico.
Next week, we'll be up to 300 miles of incredible wall. There are two things in 1,000 years you can come back. Two things will never, with technology, it's obsolete before you even put it in the box, right? But two things never get old: wheels and walls.
First Lady Melania Trump is going to speak live to the GOP National Convention, which gets underway on Monday. Her address will be from the White House's newly renovated Rose Garden. The speech is scheduled for Tuesday night. There's a lot more news headed your way. Catholic voters are weighing the issues as Election Day draws near. Archbishop Joseph Naumann is here with some advice. Plus, a Mass of Peace and Justice will be held to commemorate a historic march for civil rights. And many are praying for peace in Portland as violent protests continue throughout the city. Stay with us.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Election Day is less than 11 weeks away, and a big choice has to be made. As Catholics, there are many issues to weigh before you cast your ballot. Joining us now to talk more about it is Archbishop Joseph Naumann, chairman of the USCCB's Pro-Life Committee. And Archbishop, what does it mean to vote pro-life? That goes beyond protecting the unborn child in the womb, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but I don't think we want to minimize that. In fact, the bishops in our cover statement to our larger statement on faithful citizenship identified the abortion issue remaining a preeminent priority, and for three reasons. First, because it attacks life when it's most vulnerable, most innocent. Second, because it happens within the family and it destroys the bonds, the most sacred human bonds of a parent and child. And third, because of the sheer numbers, over 65 million lives lost since 1973. And each one of those children have a mother and a father that have been scarred by the abortion experience. So it's preeminent. When I was talking with Pope Francis, I told him there were some that criticized us for that, but he said, why? He said, it is preeminent because if we don't have life, no other right matters. So having said that, yeah, there are other important issues that we also as Catholics have a great concern about. For instance, religious liberty, I think, is also a very important issue for Catholics. And, for instance, we have some on the ticket that, for instance, have said, if you're a Knight of Columbus, or for that matter, an Orthodox Catholic, you shouldn't be allowed to serve as a judge in our country. That should be very concerning to us as well. Racism is a life issue. It's not only destructive to the person that the racial bias is against, but it's an affront to God, because every human being is made in the image and likeness of God, and Jesus gave his life on Calvary for us. So that too, is a very important issue. We need to elect people that will try to help heal the wounds of racism in our country.
As you mentioned, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops approved a document late last year called Forming Consciences for a Faithful Citizenship. It provides guidance to voters during a presidential election year, but doesn't tell Catholics how to vote. Tell us a little bit about it and explain what it means to vote with a Catholic conscience.
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, the church from the very beginning of our country, has decided that in a democratic republic, it's not the proper role of the church to tell Catholics who to vote for, either for particular candidates or parties. Having said that, it is our responsibility to inform Catholics in what are the principles and the priorities when they go into the voting booth. And so that's what faithful citizenship, it attempts to form Catholics' consciences, and it brings up a whole array of issues. I mean, there's a moral dimension to so many issues in our culture and society. So we have a concern about all of those, but then we have to look at what the priorities are as well.
All right, so what advice do you have for Catholics when preparing for this upcoming election? How do we prepare ourselves in our minds to cast a ballot that we can be proud of?
Pray, first of all, pray for the Holy Spirit to enlighten you in your choices. And then secondly, I would say, don't allow party loyalty to govern the way that you vote. That should not supersede your Catholic faith. And so I think we vote our conscience first and parties second. It's important to be part of parties, and every party has its strengths and weaknesses. And I encourage people to be active in their political parties to try and change them in positive ways, but don't vote party over moral issues.
All right, Archbishop Joseph Naumann, chairman of the USCCB's Pro-Life Committee, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. God bless.
The historic 1963 March on Washington is going to be celebrated by the Catholic leader of the nation's capital. Archbishop Wilton Gregory of the Archdiocese of Washington is planning a mass of peace and justice at 4 p.m. on August 28th. It was on that day, 57 years ago, that Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech in front of the Lincoln Memorial. You can watch that mass live on the Archdiocese of Washington's St. Matthew's Cathedral Facebook page. That's facebook.com/St.Matthews.Cathedral. In Portland, protesters want justice, but peace is not how you would describe what's happening in that city. Demonstrations there often turn violent, and there's no end in sight. For more than 80 nights, it's been relentless. Clashes between police and protesters in Portland, Oregon have been tough on the city. Graffiti, fires, boarded up buildings, and injuries on both sides.
I've had some hearing loss, so I've had mortars explode right next to me. My pants have been singed and destroyed.
Portland Police Sergeant Josh Silverman has lost track of how many days he's spent working the protests and riots. It all began after the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis this past May. Black Lives Matter demonstrators say their focus is to promote peace while still getting demands met for justice and equality.
Just more continuous protesting against injustice and trying to bring the human race together as a people. My agenda is that people were separated a long time ago and brainwashed, and my purpose of being out here is to try to bring the human race together.
But night after night, officers say it's the same small group of people who come out under the guise of supporting Black Lives Matter, but make it their mission to provoke police.
Even if we respond, that means we are overzealous thugs. And if we don't respond, it's a dereliction of our duty and we're letting a building burn to the ground. And so they recognize that they can put us in a no-win situation.
But Silverman says he wouldn't ever consider quitting because despite all the noise, he believes Black Lives Matter will transform American policing as we know it. And he's 100% on board.
There are going to be changes, and I'd like to be a part of those changes.
Demonstrators there have set fire to county government buildings, reportedly broken into the police union headquarters, and clashed with federal agents who were called in last month to protect a U.S. courthouse that was targeted. A striking declaration from Venezuela's strongman, Nicolas Maduro, about the coronavirus. He's calling anyone with the disease a bioterrorist, and he's using his repressive security squads to crack down on their human rights. So far, thousands of Venezuelans have been herded into camps, locked up to prevent the virus from spreading. He's also intimidating doctors and health experts who dare to question his actions. Pope Francis is taking a strong stand today on a COVID vaccine. He's warning that when the medicine is available for use, it can't be hoarded.
Sarebbe triste se nel vaccino per il Covid-19 si desse la priorità ai più ricchi. Sarebbe triste se questo vaccino diventasse proprietà di tale o quale nazione, non sia universale e per tutti. Se il virus dovesse nuovamente intensificarsi in un mondo ingiusto per i poveri e più vulnerabili, dobbiamo cambiare questo mondo.
The Holy Father added that the pandemic is exposing the vast gulf that exists between rich and poor worldwide. Still to come on Currents News, priests in New Mexico are being told to pick up the pace, why they could be punished for being long-winded. Also ahead, their job is to serve and protect, but these cops went above and beyond. We'll show you. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Priests in the Archdiocese of Santa Fe, New Mexico are being told to keep it brief. Archbishop John Wester is putting a 5-minute time limit on Mass homilies. He's ordering the restrictions because of the pandemic. The Archbishop wants to cut back on the amount of time parishioners are exposed during the liturgy. Any priest who doesn't follow the clock could lose the right to preach in the future. Young girls across America now have another woman to look up to. The Girl Scouts of America are appointing their first black CEO. Judith Batty is the new leader of the organization. Batty is a former ExxonMobil lawyer and was herself a Girl Scout on Long Island. Batty has also served on the organization's national board. A Las Vegas family with 6 kids is getting a big boost in life thanks to the cops. A truck filled with furniture and toys pulled up in front of their family home, everything inside arriving courtesy of the Las Vegas Police Department. The cops pitching in to help after both mom and dad lost their jobs because of the COVID crisis. Mom, Bonnie Sampson, is thankful for the shot in the arm.
So it's actually a restart button. It really is. It's a whole start over. You know, now we can feel home. It's an awesome feeling to know that you can actually help somebody out like this. All of us as cops, we always are, worried about doing all the, the crime and all this other stuff, but actually helping a family out that's in need is really rewarding.
The cops learned about the family's struggles when the officers were delivering food at a nearby apartment complex. And finally tonight, going back to school this fall may be scary for some kids, but one Christian teacher is trying to ease her students into it. Kim Martin, a first-grade teacher at St. Barnabas Episcopal School in DeLand, Florida, decided to decorate her kids' desks, turning them into cars. How cool is that? Martin says having the vehicles in the classroom is a good way to reinforce the idea of staying socially distant. She's going to use phrases like, don't get in someone else's car, and keep your hands inside the vehicle at all times. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.